We are live.
Oh, okay. So the instructions want me to split up the following topics, but since there's only four of us, I figured we'd just talk about them all in general,
Yeah.
and share our own experiences. So, okay. So we need to share our life experiences. We'll start with substance abuse in the workplace. So how have you guys seen? I mean, I personally haven't had any personal experience with people having an issue with drugs at work.
I haven't either, but I do know my dad's in his position when they have people who make a mistake at work, like with machinery, like if there's an accident, even if it's really minor, they have to take them in to get drug tested. That's pretty much all I know.
Yeah. What other?
Except for the times that you did the drugs, Maddie. You know, other people.
No, I haven't had any. Well, I worked at Walt Disney World, and so there were people there who did not share the same values as I do, and so I was in the same building with people who would smoke and who would drink, and I've been with them when they would drink. But I mean, it didn't. They were good enough, or Disney has a standard that they've made it clear that you cannot, that it's unwise to drink if you're going to work, obviously, and they're drug tested and stuff like that. So I've never seen any issues with it being a problem in the workplace, but I have worked with many people who do that, and yeah. I guess another part of that would be not just drugs. Thought was really interesting with Disney. If you work with Disney, you cannot have tattoos shown.
Yeah.
And so there were many people that I worked with who had many tattoos. And one girl in particular, she had tattoos all up and down her arms. And so she always had to make sure that she was wearing long sleeve shirts and that her shoes were covering the tattoos on her foot. Many people that I was working with went through some tattoo phase. Everyone wanted a tattoo, and they got the tattoos that only show when there's a black light.
Oh,
so it's invisible unless you're in the black light, and so that was something. So I think it's really cool to see how Disney works with those kind of people and the standard that they have, and they really enjoy people who keep themselves clean.
Yeah, instead of just rejecting them, they work with them to get around choices they've made in life.
And it's cool because most of the people that have these tattoos and stuff, that they're all Disney tattoos. I remember the one girl, she has a tattoo that it was right here on her bicep, and it said "to" and then the infinity sign and beyond, but instead of beyond it was like an arrow pointing further to the right or whatever. So
it's like self-promotion for the company. They should rock those.
It was cool. And so there's many things. And one girl who got the black light tattoo, it was a Mickey Mouse head. So it was like, it's funny to see the kind of people who do
that. So how would you guys go about addressing these issues? So maybe not people with tattoos, but if people are having substance abuse problem in the workplace, what would you guys do to kind of manage that?
So I was the hiring manager for Walmart, and I gotta tell you, one application to hire a person costs about $500. That's including a drug test. And if we have 15 people, 20 people sitting there, and they want to get hired at Walmart, more than about, I'd say maybe 80% of it, they fail the drug test. Every single one of them. Because they've taken something the day before, they used something the 3 days before, whatever. So it's a waste of money. That's how I see it. And then Walmart now actually took away that policy. You don't have to be drug tested as a new hire.
Huh.
Yep. Unless you're getting into an accident, of course, then I was the one who had to drive him to a drug testing clinic and twiddle my thumb sitting there and have them whatever they need to do, and then drive them back again because they're not allowed to drive on their own.
Yep. Yep.
That's interesting. Do you like that policy, or what do you think is better?
You know what? Honestly, I gotta tell you, I liked it. I'm okay with the policy if you have an accident and you can ensure that you were not on drugs or anything like that at the time. I just don't like it that they took it away from new hires, because then we can weed them out already. I'm not spending $500 finding you in the corner and you using drugs or drinking alcohol. That's a waste of my money. I mean, you're not working then. You know what I'm saying? It's not helping me. So, hey guys, I'm gonna disconnect and connect back upstairs. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
How would you handle the situation, Connor?
First, I'd probably try talking to the person individually. Like if they're doing, they're drinking on the job or using other, illegal drugs. Because most companies have some kind of smoking policy where, they have to go outside and smoke or like something like that. So that I don't see that as being too much of an issue besides my beliefs in it. But if that's their choice, they can do it. But like with other drugs where it affects their behavior, try talking to them in general. Just be like, hey, I've noticed you've had these mood swings and they happen when you go to the bathroom and then you come back and you're happy as, maybe just talk to them about the effects it's having on us as, coworkers, and maybe, what it's doing to them as well. And if they don't make any choices to better the situation, maybe to take it to a manager.
Yeah.
They've also got the, I can never remember what it's called. I don't even remember the acronym, but basically like the professional counseling office that a lot of companies put together. And that might not be a bad route if it's like something going on in their life that's causing them to.
You could have a special procedure, like
Mm-hmm.
if it's so many calls, then you have to do this or something like that. I think definitely up front, though, the employee should know what they're getting into. Like, hey, if you are a smoker, this is where you can smoke or whatever. And if it ever becomes a problem, this is what you're going to do. And so if they're not comfortable with that, then obviously they wouldn't want to be hired.
Yeah, most companies have a policy like by agreeing to work for us, we can subject you to a drug policy at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Something along those lines. So.
Did you know, just a side note, I saw yesterday, there's a no smoking sign here in Rexburg.
Really?
In BYU, Idaho. Did you know that?
Is it just like on campus, or is it like
Yeah, it's on campus.
the whole city of Rexburg?
It's above, do you know where this is? This is the
Oh,
Hart
yeah.
Building.
Move it this way.
Oh, sorry. This is the Hart Building.
Huh.
You're coming, are you on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know where that is.
Yeah, you know where this is. I have never noticed that sign there
Neither have I.
until yesterday. And we're like, does this
I had-
make sense? Like, why there?
And it's in the health building of all places.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's the only non-smoking sign that I've seen here on campus.
I mean, I walk down those stairs twice a
Like-
week at least because I have a
Yeah.
class down there. And
See?
never noticed it.
Now you're gonna see it all the time now.
Nope, because I don't have that class anymore.
What
We
day,
finished on Monday.
what days did you have that class?
Tuesday, Thursday? No, Monday, Wednesday.
What time?
10:15 to 11:15.
I probably haven't, but I probably barely missed you if you went at 10 o'clock, because I get out of class at 10 on Mondays and Wednesdays in the Hart.
Yeah, I mean, I had class in the Romney from 9 till 10, and so I'd walk down there about 10:03.
Wait, in the Romney? Oh, wait, not Romney.
Yeah, the Romney's the science building. Yeah. Okay.
That's cool.
So now we're going to move on to divorce and family issues. Same kind of questions. How would
At
it
the
impact the
workplace?
workplace? Yeah, and how would we address the issue?
Oh boy.
So I think it's mainly talking about employees going through those situations that you work with or that work for you or things like that.
I thought it was really interesting in the reading how they talked about how you should never say,
Talking about your
never be like, it's gonna be okay. Or what was it again?
just don't
Like,
be a counselor.
yeah,
That's-
like I know how you feel. Or
I've
something,
been through it
something
too.
that I would probably say normally. I'd be
Yeah,
like,
like you try to relate with them.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. I was like, oh dear.
Why do you think that is?
Go ahead. What was that?
Why do you guys think that is? Why would you avoid having compassion or relating to them?
Because you're not a counselor. You're don't have what comes with it. You know what I'm saying? And then what if they take you up on whatever you suggested to them and it's not the right thing for them? So you don't want to even open that door. So I think for me it works good. I mean, I will listen to them and I will show empathy, but I will direct them to the employee hotline. Usually those lines can help people that are going through that. You know, so that's majority of the time that's what I did.
Well, there is a risk, like if they feel like you gave them good advice and you're not a counselor and they always come to
Yeah.
you, then they're gonna miss out
Yeah.
opportunity and professional help.
That's
Right.
going to take valuable time that you could be doing, like managing other people, doing things that you need to do.
But what if they're your friend? And
Then
a
they
I
can
don't
coworker?
have any friends at workplace.
I'd remind them, we should remind them, hey, remember, I'm a friend. You should do everything I say. There's professional help. Yeah, like help them find that definitely. Because I think it's hard. You're like, go talk to this person. They probably wouldn't want to, but if you could help direct them to it, help them.
Or put a disclaimer, basically say, you know what, I don't understand what you're going through, you know, and I'm listen to them, but put a disclaimer that they do need to talk to somebody who is proficient at this, and that you're not, or I am not.
Mhm.
I think that's
So
how.
say it's not a divorce, but say it's more like just a small family issue where, they have questions about their teenagers. Do you still, sorry, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Do you still suggest them to professional help to talk about their teenagers?
I just don't know that it's professional to talk about that in your position as a manager, right? I mean, especially in depth. It's like you're there as their manager for that specific job. And if you get away from that, I don't know, I would feel wrong.
I mean, you can give your opinion. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You can give them advice, be like, oh, this is what I do with my teenager. Or I don't know, but don't make it sound like your way is the only way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good question, though.
So, I guess we kind of talked about how we'd address it, So we'll move on to the next one. So work and home balance, or as millennials like to call it, work and life balance. So,
My work life.
how would this impact the workplace?
So how would we?
Make sure that's like well managed.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I do have an example of this actually. So I work in an accounting firm, and they have a life from May until December, and they have no life from January to April. And so it's very interesting, like how much time I've seen CPAs there until 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. It's insane how many hours they put. And so I think one way to help them is they understand that whatever extra hours they work, they're getting paid for that, obviously, and that we're keeping track of the hours they spent. And they do a performance review every so often. So they calculate how many hours you've worked, and if they see if you're actually putting quality, if you're using up those hours wisely. So it's helpful to the employees that they get a bonus pay and that the work that they're doing is actually contributing to the company. So I think that's one way to handle it.
Well, that is a one way to handle it.
Yeah. All right. An example that I can think of. So my dad's kind of a workaholic. It's not that he loves to work, but he just doesn't like to leave things unfinished, and he wants things done the right way. And so he usually spends a lot of time staying late, not till 2 a.m. or anything like that, but just working harder than he needs to. And one of his managers kind of noticed that 1 year. So my dad gets quite a bit of days off each year because he's been with the same company for 30 years. And so my dad, like, I always ask him, like, Dad, you should go on a trip, come out to Rexburg and see me. And he's like, one, I don't want to see Rexburg. And two, he's like, I don't have time to do that. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have time? You have, from accumulating work days off the last couple of years, you can take, half a year off or, several months.
Yeah.
And it's like he just tells himself that he doesn't have time. And so one of his managers, his boss, told him that he should take some time off because he had like 30 days left to take off, and only half of them would carry over till the next year, and there's like 3 months left in the year. And so I don't know, maybe this is me just putting 2 and 2 together. I don't know if this is how it worked exactly, but nowadays my parents will take a trip in November together, just Thanksgiving time frame, and he'll get a break from work, and he makes up for it. So by balancing that time for himself, he then will allow his coworkers or his employees to take Christmas time off to be with their young families because he doesn't have kids at home anymore. And so maybe as an HR manager, if you've noticed people are working too long and not taking days off, just maybe guiding them to doing it because they won't do it themselves. Could be a way to address it.
I think it's a nice thing that your dad's manager noticed it. I think that's a nice thing. Because some people are oblivious to certain things, right? Because they want to get the work done. But if your dad's manager noticed it and said, you know what, you got to do something or you're going to burn out at one point. Did he ever come to visit you?
No.
No? Okay.
No, Rexburg.
Wait, how many siblings do you have, Connor? Does he visit?
I have 3 older siblings. One of them lives 10 minutes away from them. The other one lives 3 hours away. And then my other sister lives in Arizona, and he visited her because she was blessing her baby. Wow. So he'll visit for big events, and maybe once in a while he'll go to Charlotte to visit my brother. But usually they'll have my brother come visit him so that he doesn't have to sit in the car.
You need some big event.
Yeah, some big event.
When are you having children?
Later.
Yeah, that will be a big event.
Yeah.
Nice. What does your dad do, Connor?
So he just switched positions so he works for Wells Fargo. He was a senior vice president for the international part of the bank.
Okay.
But they're consolidating the international section of the bank into different areas to cut costs.
Okay.
And so he's starting a new position in a month or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, just like an example from my life, my dad worked for the same company for like 30 years. And his last year there, he worked every day for a year, like no day off. And he said when they let him go, it was like the most relieving thing in the world. And I don't know, like if I were an employer, I would never want my employees to leave. I mean, I'd hope I wouldn't have to
To
let
be
them,
relieved that they left.
but yeah, to be relieved that they had to leave my like working for me. So giving them that balance is like a super important thing, making sure they have that rest. Yeah. So
I think another way is just, so maybe it's not work home, but it's work but not work. So like having company activities or company getaways, retreats, where it's work hours, like it's for the company, but you're not there working, and so it's kind of like the same thing as taking a
break.
personal break. Yeah.
So I gotta tell you, it's interesting to work in a temple and having that. So because work, like when I drive home at 10:30 in the morning or whenever I work, and I literally ask myself, did I work today? I did, but I was in a beautiful place, right? But I also have to think about all the administrative side of it. So when an employee calls me who's supposed to work at 9 p.m. but gets there at 10 p.m. and says, I need to do following things. So I don't know, I don't want to say it's relaxed there, but it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's maybe because it's a temple, but yeah.
you enjoy what you do though, right?
Say it again?
What's that?
Say it again. I didn't hear it.
You enjoy what you do, so that
I
kind
do.
of better. Are you in the Boston Temple?
I am.
Oh, cool.
I am.
I can
We're
see
in the-
how it's different.
We're in the middle of the shutdown, so we're doing the maintenance side. We're cleaning up right now.
Yeah.
But it's really different, and it's night and day between Walmart and working at the temple. I mean, I gotta tell you. So, but I think regarding to say, hey, your family comes first, I think it's easier to say at the temple than it would be at a retail store. You know what I'm
Because
saying?
everyone has that same belief of
There you go.
it's God, family, work, things like that.
There you go. You got it. You got it.
But, you go to corporate Walmart, everyone's like, it's all about work. We need to get our numbers. Who
Yep.
cares
I gotta
what
get my
it-
sales in, I gotta make the bonus at the end of the month. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. The next topic. So how would this issue impact the workplace? Same-sex relationships.
Oh boy. Okay. I'm trying to think here.
I don't know.
I don't
I've never run into that.
I've worked with people, like in Disney, I've worked with people who same-sex
I think that
attraction, but I don't know what do you do differently in a business? Don't you just treat them like normal people? I don't know.
I think one
Yeah,
who could
you
be
should.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think you have to be careful of like prejudice from other workers. Like that's something. If you have someone who's homosexual in your workplace, there's potential for that.
It
And
could
s-
lead to harassment.
Yeah.
Good thing Whitney's not here.
What do you have to say?
We need to email her.
You're like, we're talking about harassment. Thoughts?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you wanna treat them like any other person. Just be careful and
I mean,
So when I had to do the orientation, and that was included, no romantic relationships, no between either supervisor or individuals, and that was so. I think, like you said, treat them the same and make it generalized. It's like the rule goes for all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's no, oh, okay, so you're the exception or anything like that. So I agree with generalize it and treat everyone the same way. What your orientation is, that's up to you. Not up to me.
Don't bring your romantic relationships to work.
There you go. Yep. And don't bring any drama to work, please.
yeah.
Yeah.
Stand.
Yeah.
okay. So let's just move on. So we briefly talked about this, but workplace dating and relationships.
Same.
How
Yeah.
It's general. There's none. If you set the expectation from the get-go, then there's a rule, there's a policy. What happens down the road, don't tell me, because you know what the rule is or what the policy is. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I've never, in places that I've worked, it's never popped up that you should not have relationships or dating.
It happens a lot more than you'd think.
Yeah, I
though.
never thought about that actually. Like actually having a procedure that says no such relationships in the workplace. I don't remember.
the sad part though is that nobody actually follows it. So in Walmart, I spoke about it constantly. It was at every single orientation, and I pretty much had it every week. I had like 10, 15 people for orientation, but nobody followed the policy. Everyone had some kind of interest at the end of the month, and some kind of they loved, and somebody they were dating. And I'm like, what's the point of the policy?
Yeah. There's
So,
just so much danger.
What would happen because of that? Did you have any issues with that?
You know what? There's nothing I could do about it. As long as they were not supervising each other or they were each other's supervisor, there's nothing I could do.
Yeah, I think the policy could be there in place for cases where where the work's related, so that they could then benefit each other. So like with my dad, I've talked about going to work with him or in the same office, or because I'm going in the same field he is, and he's like, yeah, you could work for Wells Fargo, but you wouldn't really be able to work with me because of, if I was the credit checker.
Right.
And he had a company that he thought was worth it, he could, influence me other than another worker who doesn't have a family relationship.
Right.
So I think that's why most companies have those kind of policies, so that if something like that does arise, it can be switched.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the last step. Okay, so what other issues do you guys see in society that are likely to impact workplaces in the future?
I think one that's impacting us right now is the use of mobile devices. You find employees who just sit around on their phones all day and don't get any work done. And it's an issue. I don't know how else to say it.
It's true. It's true. So as a manager, I'm constantly walking around with the phone in my hand, but I'm getting email constantly. So I actually was questioned multiple times. Well, how come you walk around with the phone and I can't, right? So I had to do that explanation. I'm a manager. This is what I do. This is part of my tool that I need to use, right? So I had to multiple times. There's a couple of times where I don't want to say I took the phone away, which sounds like a 5-year-old thing, but I did actually tell them, go put the phone away in your locker and don't bring it out.
Yeah.
Another thing is headphones working at night.
Oh, yeah.
So headphones, if you work in an overnight shift, so I worked for 3 months working overnight. If they're working, let's say, in the freezers and they have the headphones on because they're stockings, makes it easier. But if the fire alarm goes off, they're not hearing it.
But that's okay. They're in the freezer.
Yeah, I know. They're safe in there, which I get, but still, I need to get the associates out. So the headphones, big.
Yeah, it's
Okay. That was my biggest pet peeve that I had with the associates. I literally collected all headphones at one point or another. And I said, you know what? You don't get them back till you get the policy straight. If you get them straight, then you can have it back.
I think too, it just looks unprofessional. I mean,
Absolutely.
definitely it detracts from your ability to work, but if you have customers around and you're on your cell phone, it looks bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we're kind of talking more about, hourly paid jobs, but what if it's like a salary, like full-time salary, you and your career kind of job? Because like I know my dad, he's not on his phone often, but he'll call my mom frequently throughout the day. It's like, how does
I can use my phone at my work.
But your dad, how long has he been with the company, Connor?
he's been there for 30 years, but even the people that he works for, I'm sure they have the same leniency where it's if they aren't performing, then they get in trouble. But because they sit at a desk all day, so if there's a slow time during the day, they, like I feel like they should feel free to be able to call their significant other. 'Cause-
You know what? It's gonna depend on his manager. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So here's the thing: if his manager is doing it, he cannot say anything to your dad.
Critical, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't call how is the word call the cattle black or whatever? I don't know that. Anyway, besides the point. But if his manager is doing it, calling his wife or for multiple times in a day, he can't say anything to your dad.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying? Unless he's not doing it and he sees your dad doing it maybe more often than normal, then maybe he can say something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's how I see it. And it was the same way at my work. I mean, I constantly got phone calls, but it was work phone calls. But however, when I got a couple of calls, I really made a big habit to make sure I get those personal calls at my break time, the 15-minute or the lunch hour that I had.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the manager, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think the bigger distraction with phones is using it as social media. So not just calling, someone important in your life, but using it to waste time, not get things done. Using it as a distraction because you want the day to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely see that going.
Got it.
One thing I was thinking about is people's political and different political opinions and different beliefs. I think that's likely to impact the workplace in the future. We learn in the scriptures that as God gets stronger, so does Satan and their powers on earth. The divide gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just going to become more prevalent in our everyday life, depending on where we live. Like, I don't think there's too much of a divide in Rexburg or much of Utah. But depending on where you live, there could be a big divide between you and 7 of your coworkers.
Yeah.
Yep.
One thing that I was thinking about, maybe in the future, what may affect the workplace is virtual reality. Like not being at work, like you could work from home, or like maybe you walk into a store and it's a robot that greets you. So it could happen.
That's true.
Like Jarvis is in there, and you're like, Jarvis, should I get this shirt? And he's like, yeah, it looks great on you. It's like, I think that could definitely affect the workplace, affect a lot of people's jobs. We're getting into that.
I know, technology is fast.
Amazon, where you can walk in, take what you want, leave, and you don't have to check out, but it will just automatically bill you.
Oh,
You guys know about that?
Wegman started that, and I think some shop and stop places started that too.
Yeah, well, Amazon's the one that's going to make it big because it's Amazon.
Yeah.
And they just bought Whole Foods, so.
I know.
Yeah.
That's insane. Wow.
So I wonder if it's like you sign in on your phone that I don't really know how it works, but some way that it just will bill your Amazon account instead, something like that. So there's no more cashiers, things like that.
Wow.
Probably do pretty good in stopping theft too. Okay, I don't know if people steal from grocery stores, but
Oh yeah.
Hey, it's been done. Don't worry about it.
well, I'm sure it's been done.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's the most prevalent place to steal stuff.
Yeah.
Compared to like the mall.
True.
But
So there's no job security if they come up with that. So
Well-
like, if you can just walk in there,
Oh, sorry.
that's fine. If you can just walk in there and then there's nobody there to assist you any longer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, not
Yeah.
that market, but it might open up engineering jobs.
You're like, Alexa, where's the tomatoes? And it lights up, the aisle lights up, and you go,
Oh my gosh. Is that Oh, Maddie, I'll think about you Tuesday. I will email them. Like, Maddie, it just happened.
Man, we should make it happen. We'll be rich.
We will be rich.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
since we're on the topic, how
Sorry.
do you think how do you think the workplace will change in the next 10 years? Like, what are you guys' predictions on what
There's
the
not going to be
workplace
a
would
lot
be
of
like?
jobs.
We will be talking to Jarvis. That's what will happen.
I think it'll be harder to get a job, maybe.
I think so too.
I wouldn't be
Well-
surprised. Oh, sorry.
I think the jobs that are going to be gone are going to be, high school kid jobs. The cashier at Walmart, the bagger boy, things like that. Like I don't,
The hamburger.
at least in 10 years, I don't see people, like managers and, people of seniority being replaced because of their expertise that I don't think robots would be able to replace.
The jobs that'll stick around are those that are like creative jobs, like building things.
Yeah. That's true. So that means though, so high school kids, they're not going to have any experience till they graduate from college or even go to college. So
Right.
Not necessarily, because their experience could be, because we're moving more towards technology. So their experience could be,
Kids could be graduated from college by the time.
yeah, I mean, they could be hacking into different systems and be recruited because of their, technology expertise,
okay, all right, I'll give you that.
things like that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So it's going to be a different type of experience where it's not going to be, I bagged groceries when I was 16 till I was 18 and then I went to college, things like that. But
Gotcha. Okay.
I think the experience,
I hacked
be
into the
different.
FBI system or the NSA Interpol system. Yeah. Gotcha.
well, my wife and I, we watch Criminal Minds. I don't know if you guys watch that, but that's how they hired one of their tech analysts, was that she hacked into the FBI.
Are you
That's
serious?
right. I remember that
I mean,
one.
it's a show.
I
It's a
remember.
show. So it's
It's a
not,
Oh, that's interesting.
but I mean, that's why she got brought in. Is like, well, we don't want dangerous people out there. And so let's bring her on our team.
We'll keep you on a tight leash. So,
Yeah.
just on a personal note, I hope that this doesn't go too off topic, but I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. How should we teach our children then, if like these are going to change? Like, should we enforce our children to know a lot about technology or get them involved in
think-
that kind of thing, or
I think they will naturally.
yeah.
more naturally?
I mean, kind of like our parents never really taught me how to use a smartphone, but eventually I learned as I grew up
Oh, that is
and
true.
things like that. Our parents didn't teach us how to binge on Netflix for hours, but we learned how to do that.
I came,
We just want to
came
make sure
really
that we're more
easily.
productive. Help
Well,
our
I think you can do both, Maddie. You can teach him the technology that is at that moment of time, but make him aware of the dangers and the good things about it.
Okay.
That's what I would do. You know what I'm saying? It's great to know it because you can teach it and use it as a talent. But if you can tell them what the pitfalls are,
Yeah,
you covered both.
makes sense.
I mean, you can always lead your kids towards something, and if they don't want to do it, they won't.
Right?
That's
You know,
true.
And if you have kids that are like stubborn, so then right there.
You just tell them how it is.
Yeah.
You pull a Whitney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call him Whitney.
well, and I think with what,
I need to email her.
and I think with the changes that are that we expect to be coming, it's going to be adjustment for us, so we're going to have to teach as we learn, which, will be a challenge in of itself.
Yeah.
Like my mom, she told me about, so she listens to Glenn Beck. I don't know if you guys are a fan of him or not,
Yeah.
Is that okay?
but he had a show several months ago about,
Please, thank you.
technology being created where it's like putting a chip into your head where, through that you can access the internet and like it pulls things up on your eye, things that we always dreamed of, like as kids, that we didn't think
That is
would
so
be happening.
sci-fi. Is that really happening already?
hmm I mean, they have well, I don't know if people are actually doing it, but they have the science created.
Okay, so China and Japan is doing that.
Maybe. I don't know where it's happening.
That's all I can think of.
Yeah. But it's like, so my mom asked me, like, would you do it? It's kind of like having a smartphone. If you don't have a smartphone today, you're held back in society essentially because you can't do the same things as other people.
Okay.
And so like, what the next thing, like the next jump from, the brick phones to smartphones is like smartphones to, chip technology that's put into your head.
Would you
And
do
like,
it?
would you do that?
Would you?
I don't know.
No.
Because if it's hooked up to your brain, if you were searching the internet, and it's hooked up to your brain, all you have to do is think stuff and it could pull up that information for you. And so you could also think about the negatives where
Okay. Yeah.
like your actions aren't necessarily deciding. It's just, your actions become your thoughts.
Okay. That's a good
I
one.
don't know. Things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go that far. Yeah.
That's scary.
It is at one point. You're like, I don't want anything in my head. I have too much in my head already. I don't need one more thing.
It's like mind control capability too. I don't know. I wouldn't be able
If someone hacks it and they
Yeah.
That
can.
episode of Sherlock. Does anyone watch Sherlock?
I love Sherlock.
Yeah.
I haven't
it's like
seen all of it.
Have you watched the last season? I'm sorry, totally off topic.
We're pretty much done. We could probably end the live session and keep talking if you guys wanted to. So.
Okay.